Well, most Americans will change careers 3 times during their professional lives. Many people feel dissatisfied in their current careers or are ready for a new challenge, but they don't know what it takes to do something else. So this morning, life coach Charlie Bornstein-Reguera is here with some tips, and this is some invaluable information. We were talking earlier about how people used to kind of stay with one career.
Absolutely, and this part that we're talking about today is really for people who understand that they don't like what's going on right now in their careers, but they have no idea what they would like to do instead.
All right, and for people feeling like this is probably not an uncommon feeling. You know, you may feel like I'm the only person who's ungrateful and hates my job. A lot of people feel like that.
Yeah, it's really true, and work experiences really ought not be dreadful, right? We hopefully are looking forward to what it is that we're going to be doing each day.
All right, so some great tips here for people who do want to make that switch, and the first one you say is to keep that current job until you have a new one.
Absolutely, especially during this phase, right, which is really where you're exploring what are the options that are available to you. And quitting your job can really create a hugely distracting crisis, whereas maintaining employment gives us resources and energy to be able to focus on this really important task of determining what we would like to be doing instead.
All right, and when it comes to investing in yourself to be able to make that move, what should you be doing there?
So really important things to do here. So you want to look for opportunities to gain further experience and expertise in the field that you're interested in transitioning to. So there may be training opportunities, even internships or volunteer opportunities that you can do on a part-time basis while you're still working within your current field.
All right, and then you've got a little acronym here to help, GPV. Tell us what that stands for.
Absolutely. So we want to take a really good look and understand what our gifts, passions, and values are. And there are some really good tools for doing this. There's the Myers-Briggs personality test and the MAP, which is the motivational appraisal for personal potential. And both of these tests are tests that are available online, and they give you a really good idea of what are your specific gifts, talents, and motivators for work, and match you up with really good vocational options.
All right, and people can just Google those, or do they need to go to a life coach?
Absolutely. I mean, assessment.com is one place where you can get to them, and myersbriggs.org is another one.
All right, really cool. And then, of course, you need to do some research before you make this move. What do you suggest when it comes to that?
So really important, again, we really want to take a look at what are the real world options that are available to someone who has the experience and education that I have. So a great place to get started is to talk to people who work in the field that you're interested in transitioning to, and have open dialogue with them about what are the pros and cons, how likely is it that I can make this transition. And then there are also lots of great professional journals and professional associations that you can begin to get involved with and gather more information about the change that you'd like to make. Another really great place to take a look at trends and options is the U.S. Department of Labor has really good statistics out there that when you look at them, you get a good sense of what is the job market and what are really good options for me moving forward.
Gotcha. And this is such a big change. Where do you get support from for this?
So, you know, there are two different paths that people can choose. You can choose a mentor, but in this case, you really want to choose a mentor who's gone through the experience that you're hoping to achieve, right? I may have lots of people I love, but I want someone who's really had this experience. And then there are also professionals who are trained, who have expertise to walk you through this really important process of career transformation and to give you support and accountability along the way as you're moving through this process.
All right, some great advice, Charlie, and of course people can come to you for more of what we've talked about today.
Right.
Well, next Monday we're actually going to talk about what to do once you have figured out what that new career path should be. In part 2, we're going to have some tips for transitioning gracefully.
Thanks, Eric. Changing careers during your professional life has become the norm. Most Americans will change careers 3 times. Leveraging what you already know, recognizing your value, and building relationships are key to a successful career change. And life coach Charlie Bornstein-Reguera is here to tell us all about this. And this is part 2. We talked about when you can make that decision. And now people who have made that decision, you're here with some tips on how to follow through.
Right, absolutely. So there's quite a process involved in deciding what career you're going to transition to if you don't have an idea about how to do that. And that's what we talked about last week. But today we're really discussing the nuts and bolts of once you've made the decision of the career that you'd like to transition to, how do you get that done?
Okay, so what's the first step?
So the first step is really getting your professional documents in order. And when you're talking about transitioning careers, you're really talking about revamping your resume and your curriculum vitae so that they specifically speak to the skills and resources that you're bringing with you into this new target area.
That's really key. When you're making your resume, you're targeting that resume to a specific company.
Absolutely, and then we get even more specific when you talk about the particular cover letter that you would be writing to a company each time that you're sending out your resume.
What should that cover letter include?
So in the cover letter, you really want to explain briefly why it is that you're changing professions, and you want to do that in a kind of an enthusiastic spirit, right? But most importantly, you want to communicate what you can do specifically for the new organization. How can you add value?
And now you have to consider the organization that you're currently with and how you deal with your current boss and coworkers.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about changing careers, we're assuming that you're in current employment, and you need to make a decision about when are you going to tell your current boss and your current colleagues that you're leaving. What's largely going to determine the timing of this is how much support do you need from them in order to make this transition. In some cases, you don't need much, and you may want to wait until later in the process because you don't want to create unnecessary instability within your current workplace. But when you need their support, you're going to have to give them the heads up early on.
And networking is very important.
Networking is so important. Building close relationships with people who are currently working in the area that you want to transition into is really valuable. You want to make sure that you meet with those people face to face because we're really talking about building relationships. And you want to express a ton of gratitude for the time that they spend with you and ask them for feedback.
And then you want to apply for positions in your target areas.
Absolutely. So last time we talked a lot about how is it that you figure out what your motivators are, what your passions are, and what your values are. Now we want to use all that hard work to put it toward the target area.
And here's another tip I think is so important. Negotiate your salary and benefits after you have received an offer. You don't go in there and say, hey, how much are you going to pay me?
It's so important, and it's actually one of the things that people sometimes kind of get a little off in an initial interview is that they want to get to that part. Well, wait until you have the offer, and then you really want to do a good job of gracefully advocating for yourself and your best interests.
And you want to make sure that you don't tender your resignation until you got that job.
The written offer with everything agreed upon between the two of you.
And then you don't want to burn bridges. It has to be a seamless transition.
Yeah, you really want to make sure that you are demonstrating appreciation and respect for your former employer, but you also want to bring that attitude with you into your new position. You really want to make sure that you're showing up on the first day of the week, the first day of your new job, communicating your respect for your new coworkers rather than trying to demonstrate what you already know.
All right. Well, Charlie Borenstein-Reguera, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sally.
And we're going to be back in the kitchen with the cast of Dinner with Friends. Stay right there.